Hey, what is up, everyone? I just have a few really cool additions to my collection, I suppose. Well, they are cool, but I don't think I'm ever going to play them, really. And I just kind of wanted to show them off a little bit, maybe address something that's been on my mind about them. But just going to start off with chronological order, I guess. Super Famicom versions of Final Fantasy IV, 5, and 6. Very cool. I got these all in a lot off of eBay for, I think it was $18.50 after shipping and handling. It would have been like $2 less than that, but at the last minute some guy sniped me and I had to beat his bid. Like, I mean, if you do that intentionally, you're annoying. Just let you know. I've done it unintentionally because I stumbled across something at the last minute, but even then, you know, I'm aware it's a bit annoying, but not a big deal. It's how eBay works, for better or for worse. Now, I actually already have each of these games in a different format. I have Final Fantasy Anthology, which has 5 and 6 released on it. I have 6 on the Game Boy Advance. Used to have 4 on Game Boy Advance, but I traded that to a friend for something. And I have Final Fantasy Chronicles, which has Final Fantasy IV and Chrono Trigger on it. I don't... This was a stupid impulse buy. It's like I saw all these for such a good deal. I'm like, I just gotta. But I didn't really have to. I was actually playing them a little bit. And by a little bit, turning them on to see if they work. And just realizing, yeah, I can't read this. I mean, somebody pointed out to me, well, you can get a translation guide. Yeah, that's actually a lot more reading, and it's printing out a bunch of stuff, which it uses up a lot of ink and a lot of paper. It's a big guide. It's a lot you have to translate. It's going to be a long guide. And yeah, it's just a little bit more effort than I'm willing to put in. I've also heard these are like the definitive versions of these games. Like the Game Boy Advance versions and the PS1 versions are somehow inferior. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think those all had extra stuff put on them, like extra additional stuff. I don't really know. I haven't really played the Super Nintendo versions of these too much. I played the Super Nintendo version of 5 on an emulator a while back, but I really can't say specifically what they added, but I know there's stuff that they added on those. And the only reasons I think that those might qualify the re-releases as inferior are because the Game Boy Advance versions had lower sound quality because they're on a Game Boy Advance as opposed to the Super Nintendo. Super Nintendo had a better sound processor, and it was not a handheld console, which is going to have lower sound quality in general. That's one of the problems, and the other problem I've heard is like the PlayStation versions have load times to put up with. I'm not really seeing why those are huge problems. I mean, yeah, okay, the sound problem, okay, whatever. Not a huge deal to me. Still sounds great. It's just not as good as the original versions, but I never noticed it as being too much different. It's perfectly fine, it's perfectly serviceable, and it's perfectly listenable and enjoyable to listen to. Especially Final Fantasy VI, which is an amazing soundtrack. But I was also thinking, like, the load times are, like, so... It's... A lot of RPGs had load time. I mean, okay, look, RPGs are not generally fast-paced games. So, like, I can understand, like, people complaining about Mortal Kombat versions on the CD consoles because they had long load times. It's like, select your character. Character selected. Loading. Okay, here's the versus screen. Doo-doo-doo! Okay, hit the buttons to enter in the stupid code that no one ever bothers to do. Loading. In like 45 seconds after you pick your character, you're finally fighting. Okay. Alright, that's annoying. I understand that complaint. But with these games, it's like, is it really that big of a deal? You have like a 20-second load time. I mean, yeah, that's a lot. I don't know how long it really is. I never timed it. It was never that big of a deal. It's like, oh, okay, so the game's not moving as quickly as it did on the cartridge-based console. They're not games that need to move quickly. I mean, Final Fantasy VI is like a 40-hour game. It's not. These are not fast games. I don't see a huge problem with that. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe other people disagree. Maybe you can point out like other reasons why these are the better versions. You know, except for that delightful having to print out a huge guide to translate the menus and the text, and the, you know, when you could just like play it on PlayStation 1. I think Final Fantasy Anthologies and Chronicles both go for pretty low prices. Like, I think they both go for like 15, 20 bucks. I could have gotten, I mean, I already have those, but I could have gotten like that for 30 bucks instead of getting these for almost 20. You know, I don't, the Game Boy Advance versions I think a little bit pricier. Like the version of 6 I think is like 20-something bucks. Version of 4 is about the same, maybe a little lower. I don't know about the version of 5. I actually think there's a version of 5. I don't know for certain. But, you know, anyway, I might be, like, selling these or trading them in at some point, because it really isn't anything I can really do much with. But, you know, until then, you know, and if I do keep them, they're going to be, like, shelf pieces. And, you know, that's cool. I like having them as shelf pieces, but if the moment I get the English versions, they're gone. Except for 5, unless I get, like, a reproduction card of 5. Because this was never released in the US on the Super Nintendo. So there's a reason to keep this one. And the only reason to keep these two is that the English language versions of these are pricey. And I'm not really in a hurry to buy those because I already have them. Or inferior versions of them, I guess. So what? It's the same game with extra stuff added in. That's good, right? In any case, yeah, just showing off my latest stupid impulse buy. Not really that bad of a deal, honestly. I mean, I'm not complaining too much. I mean, I knew what I was getting, so... And it's cool to have them. I just doubled the size of my Super Famicom collection, and I doubled the size of my Japan-only releases. This and that SD Gundam GX game are the only two Japan-only releases until this one was re-released on the PS1. But yeah, pretty satisfied with this purchase overall, but I'm a little more excited about getting Clash at Demon Head on the NES for $6, which is coming in the mail over the next week or so. Because I didn't have that game already in English in a more playable format, you know. But what you gonna do? Stupid impulse buys. We all make them. I'm not that upset about this one. In fact, it's kind of cool, and I might be able to make a profit off of it. But whatever. So yeah. Anyone has any thoughts about why the Super Nintendo versions are inferior and why I'm totally wrong? Or the Super Nintendo versions are better and how I'm totally wrong for disagreeing with that? Then just put it down there. I actually really want to hear that. I'm curious. I want to know where people are coming from with that. If you think I'm too lazy to read the translation guide and you want to give me crap for that, just put it down there, I guess. And really, any thoughts you might have on this, just down there in the comments. Thanks for watching.